Perhaps in the end it will depend on people in government saying, gosh, that would actually help us. That might enable us to govern the country better.
What interests me about political reform is better government. It's nothing really else other than that for me. And I don't think we can achieve better government without people being involved in it.
I actually think the sort of people that are involved in this project have a real appreciation of what this is designed to achieve. I don't see that they will do anything other than to contribute positively. I think they lend an air of gravitas to both the proceedings and that which comes before. I think the citizens themselves are interested in these other people who seem to have some role, but there is an expectation that this belongs to the 150 parliamentarians, both the development of proposals beforehand and those final recommendations that come out of that parliament.
I think the priority for seating in this chamber are the citizens' parliamentarians.
Yes, we've got a range of people who are already involved in peripheral or more in, they are more involved with us than others. We'll have Fred Chaney and Louisa O'Donoghue as the chairs of the Citizens' Parliament. And that's a reasonably formal role to have oversight of the whole process.
With the two co-chairs at the top of the table there with Faulkner in the middle.
Great. We've got two co-facilitators at the Citizens' Parliament, and their role will be to be as allies to the parliamentarians and to ensure that they feel comfortable and that they reach the kind of conclusions that they need to reach, so to assist them to find their own way. We have people on our reference panel who are a former Premier. We've got a current Mayor of Brisbane City Council, a former Premier of Western Australia, a former Minister for Planning from Western Australia. We've got a range of academics. We've got some very renowned, high-profile people, and it's our expectation that they will contribute fully to the Parliament as speakers, as advisors beforehand.
The big question that we're all concerned with is the degree to which ordinary citizens can cope with some very complex political questions. The difference between this Citizens' Parliament and anything that's been done before is just the level of generality with which we start. Things like this, which have been done before, have often started with a very specific question. Please recommend us a new voting system. That was the British Columbia Citizens' Assembly. But what we're doing is starting with a much broader question, and that means that the citizens themselves have to really get their head around a very broad variety of issues. And so really the big overarching research question is how well they can do that.
I'm Louisa O'Donoghue, and I'm a Yankunytjatjara woman from Central Australia. I'm just so excited to have citizens like you coming to Canberra and getting yourselves involved in the way that you are going to get yourselves involved. Your voices need to be heard, and we all need to listen, and to listen to each other.
My name is Shane Mortimer. I'm a Ngambri man. Ngambri is the original name of this area. I am very proud that the national capital is named after my people. In 1832, because the new settlers couldn't pronounce the name Ngambri, they officially called it Cambry, K-A-M-B-R-R-I. Then, in 1913, Lady Denman, wife of the then governor, proclaimed this town to be Canberra. So, on behalf of my ancestors and the elders of the Ngambri people, and in the spirit of reconciliation, I welcome you here to Ngambri country. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, like Louisa, I have a tremendous sense of anticipation about these next few days. My name is Fred Chaney. I joined with Louisa as a co-chair, and our anticipation, of course, is that over these days it is your views that will emerge as the outcome of this meeting, and we await that with terrific interest. I've been asked by people, well, what's the end result? And I say, I wouldn't have a clue. I said, that's in the hands of the people who are coming here. It's not in the hands of those of us who've been part of organising it.
And the ideas that come from this Citizens' Parliament, I can assure you, will receive serious consideration from the government. How people involve themselves in politics is as much to do with how well they relate to the issue or the process that they're about to embark on, and whether they are local issues or broader issues. I don't think it necessarily matters. I mean, I think whatever it is, everyone, I think, simply wants to feel that they have a say. And so what are the techniques whereby you can have that say? I think that conventional wisdom with politics is that it's a leadership question. In fact, there are a number of politicians that, statesmen who have talked about politics as being nothing else but leadership. I'm not sure that that's the case. I really think politics is more the question of how people feel they can be involved in a process and in decision making. That doesn't necessarily mean leadership. It means people feeling as if they're part of the process and part of the decision making.
A lot of the conversations will be in small groups so that you can actually genuinely exchange views, and ultimately every person here will get a chance to prioritise and to engage in ways that means that no one will be silenced by the noisier people here, which is so often the case when you have a meeting. Some of us are very good at talking and drowning people out. Well, that's not going to be the way this works. This is a case where everybody will get a say and a chance to contribute. This is not a government event. This has only happened because Luca Belgiano-Nettis felt it was really important to think harder about the way the political system operated, and then he joined with other like-minded people. This is something which has come from the people too, and from university studies and from research grants. There's a whole lot of mixture here that has enabled 150 people from around the country to come together in this way. It's a really exciting thing. There are American scholars here who are going to record all this because they want to actually see what their system might learn.
We had a laptop at each table, and we had microphones at each table. We had other tape recorders and things like that. But the information that was being tapped into the laptop was basically our discussion and notes thereof, what we were discussing. That was linked up to a bank of computers in another room where we had people, or the CPs, the New Democracy people, were sitting there, analysing that data, putting that data into graphs and matriculations and all sorts of things. We were getting feedback almost live to what we were talking about. And had we not had that, we certainly wouldn't have been able to do what we did in the 3 days that we did it in. To embrace the digital technology that was available certainly made it happen. Had it not been a digital environment, it would have been very, very slow and boring and laborious, and I don't think there would have been a great deal done.
This is a really important exercise in which you're all engaged, and we're very grateful for your contribution. Will it change anything? Well, that in part will depend on the quality of what you produce. Will it be of a quality that makes people feel, gosh, that's a really good way to improve this country as governed? Perhaps in the end it will depend on people in government saying, gosh, that would actually help us. That might enable us to govern the country better. It might help us solve some of these intractable problems that the country seems to face. This is an experiment I aim to see, is this one way in which we might assist good change?
The aspects of deliberative democracy that interest me are which voices come into the room. How do you ensure that you get a very representative sample of voices in the room? You could have a deliberative parliament, but you've got a narrow group of voices in the room. So that's one aspect that interests me. I'm also very interested in how do people deliberate? What does that mean? How do you develop the confidence to deliberate? How do you create a space in which all of the voices have an opportunity to be heard?
So there's your challenge. You've got about 10 minutes to do that.
How do you make it thoughtful enough so that people come to a reasoned resolution? But how do you allow emotion and feeling to also be present? So that interests me too. And of course the third thing, and it's probably what interests most political scientists, is there any influence when you do this? So you might be able to bring a representative sample into a room. You may be able to deliberate very thoughtfully and to come up with fabulous recommendations, but what happens to those recommendations? So it's all happening within the representative government framework, and that presents inevitable challenges. Those who have been elected to govern see no reason why they should share that governance with the unelected. But some rare elected representatives actually see it as a way of strengthening what it is that they do. So it can work very nicely with the existing system of representative government. It can be integrated with the existing system of government, and that's what we're trying to do here.
I don't know if that's about maybe less passion or...
Well, I mean, there's one thing that prevents it in our system, and that is that the ministers are required to be members of parliament, whereas in the United States, the heads of departments can be pulled from anywhere. You can pick somebody out of a university or wherever. But we require ministers of state to be members of parliament. We could change that, and we could say that ministers can be.
What we do will carry weight,
Yes.
that we achieve quality outcomes, that the proposals can be enacted. Maybe we could put that together with, it will be picked up.
That it will carry weight
and what would happen in 20 years, there would be a greater ownership of Australia and the way it is run and the way it is seen throughout the world, because we will have younger, smarter, more savvy, younger politicians.
What would people want to talk about in Canberra? We were very mindful of the fact that we do not want to set the agenda for this parliament. We want to allow Australian citizens to set that agenda, and we've been able to do that through some small groups of admittedly self-selected citizens, but they have been able to come together with us and think about what would the agenda look like. And it's from those gatherings that we refine the question that we are now putting to people, which is how can we strengthen Australia's political system to serve us better? But that's not our charge or topic or question. It's actually a question that was devised by Australian citizens themselves.
Random selection, you're always going to have problems with not getting exactly what you want. You're always going to have elements that are not suited to the design. But you've got to have random selection so it can be a fair process, and so it can be recognised as being a fair process. Once I got there and started meeting all these people, that there were people from so many different backgrounds and age groups and ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, that I've never been involved in a group of people from such diversity.
Nice to be able to go in, sit in the old House of Reps and see everyone that was there. There's a massive amount of people there. I was quite impressed by just how many people showed up, because I was expecting maybe 80 odd people, but to have 153, which I think the final count was, that was really impressive. But it was cool, really nice to have a actual member of Parliament, the Senate, to come and sit in and give us an address and everything like that. It shows basically the government is going to listen to us. They are going to pay attention to what we're trying to do. So that was nice.
My hopes and thoughts about this is that I will get more of an understanding of Australia's democracy. I also hope that what we do say and what we do think actually gets listened to by the government. They don't just say it and not follow up on it.
This is what you need to do. You need to take a look through all of those proposals, and you need to decide where you want to spend the next hour or so of your time.
Why does the government, when a person wants to give their property to their children, why does those people that have given it to the children be penalised and not be able to get a pension? Yeah, there's no money changed hands or anything, it's just giving it to your children.
Still every 4 years, but not on the same date as the rest.
Okay. Okay, so it's half cent every 4 years, but staggered.
Yeah.
Oh, throw it in there, see what the experts say.
How do we attract people into political life? And I do note from your comments earlier on, from those worksheets yesterday, there is a general view that it seems to be embedded in the comments that, you know, politicians are lazy good-for-nothings that have to be checked at every point. The reality is that it is actually a hard job, and we have to ensure that we make it a job that it is attractive for people to come into. And it's not just the financial issues, but we really do need to have a broad cross-section of skills coming into the Parliament so that we actually have the people that we can choose as ministers that are actually got the capabilities to solve the sorts of issues, solve the problems that are confronting the community.
People want efficiency, they don't want disagreement, and people put up proposals with those basic views in mind. What I've taken the opportunity to compare people with is, does Australia really want a unitary government that can just do what it likes? And I compared us with New Zealand, which has no constitution, no states, no upper house, and government used to be able to just do what it did in the 1980s when it reformed the economy. Australia, because of a constitution and states, high courts, upper and lower houses, was much slower at economic reform with things like GSTs and Telstra, and had to debate the point through. In New Zealand, where they just did it, their political party system fractured at the end of the 80s because people felt they were being lied to because government just did what it wants to do. And I was just raising those issues that people seem to want uniformity in many of the earlier proposals we've seen. They wanted to standardise things across the country, but I was saying, is that what you really want, or do you want local decision-making? Because if you have uniform laws, if you have standards, everything's the same, then how do you make people have local decision-making, because things are all decided uniformly across the country?
And part of, I think, what's impressive about this exercise is that people who come into it, that's my observation from the first day, tended to think there's so much wrong with this and the answers are easy. And I guess part of what it meant to be on the panel is to say, well, the enthusiasm's great, the answers are very unlikely to be easy, but still you should try to think creatively about it. So it's not meant to be cold water, look, you can't do that, we've tried that, get away, but rather, given that it's complex, think harder about it.
My passion is the youth in politics and the education side of it, and how we can redeem our youth into getting involved into the political system, and more so education. So what we could do, in other words, rolling out maybe a national curriculum and having part of that national curriculum being political studies, starting from prep and going up through into the secondary school.
Some inefficiencies are virtuous. That's why we have them there. That's why we insist that there be all these steps to get a law through, or that there be checks, and that one branch of government can't do something without the cooperation of other things.
The fundamental questions that need to be answered are, well, what are the responsibilities that we want our national government to discharge? What are the responsibilities for other levels of government? But very importantly, that each level of government has the capacity, and including the financial capacity, to meet their responsibilities. And that's something that our system is not doing well at present.
So what are you saying? So are you saying a half Senate election every 2 years, or a full Senate election every 2 years?
We need to submit this. We've got 1 second. So okay. I think we'll just have to go with how you've done it.
Okay. That was our last-ditch effort for the last-minute things that you felt were left out. And I hope that we've got, I mean, some tables didn't have anything, and that is just fine, and some tables had a lot, that's fine.
We intend the report to be quite concise and to be relatively easy to read for the politicians. The next point will be an explanation of what are the top fundamental characteristics of a healthy political system that we've worked on.
So Nola, how's it been for you?
Oh, an experience of a lifetime, something I didn't ever expect to be taking part in like this, in such a wonderful community of everyone from everywhere, and all getting together with these wonderful ideas, and really I feel we're getting a unity that we've never realised existed, with all the same ideas in mind to just progress and push on and make something of our life, even if it is as late as I am.
What's this experience meant for you, Leah?
This has been a pretty big learning experience for me because I didn't know a thing about politics when I came here, and I just feel like I know a lot now, and I feel like I can go home and read the paper and just turn straight to politics and understand it.
Have you had any sort of wild ideas about what you might want to do with your life?
I'm gunning for work, first woman Prime Minister.
What advice have you got for Leah as our youngest citizen parliamentarian here?
Oh, learn all you can, join in all you can, participate in all you can, and give all you've got.
Oh, what a...
Our congratulations go to the citizens of Australia who have so enthusiastically considered the enhancement of their democracy, and those who have encouraged and recorded that enthusiasm through their own expertise and excellent facilitation.
Visitors, MPs, and of course the representative of the Prime Minister, we welcome you here this morning. The invitation to you was to receive the outcome of what's been 3 days of extraordinarily hard work by this 150 group of people drawn from across Australia, from every electorate in Australia. And the group that you have in front of you, seating at the parliamentary table here, are the ones who will present the outcomes to you.
The proposal that I'm recommending is empowering citizens to participate in politics through community engagement. My fellow participants was talking about empowering citizens through education, and I like to see the citizens being inspired to do something, because each of us has a role to play in this. Margaret Mead says, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." I like to extend that to even emphasize that never undermine the power of one. You, every one of you who are here, every one of you who lives in this country, you have a role to play. I am so excited that over the past few days I've learned so much about the political system, and I'm actually excited, and it's not as dry as I thought. And I'm going to go home, and I like to share this with my family because I know it starts from my household. And I'm going to walk away a changed person, and I know that attitudes are contagious, so are yours worth catching. And I like to end that I will always call Australia home.
If we are given the tools in the right way, we will explore them, we will learn, and we will help to shape your nation. I promise you, give us the chance and we will.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Matthew Brennan. I'm from Sydney, Western Sydney. And firstly, I would just like to echo the thoughts of my fellow panel members here that it's gobsmacking to be here. It really is. I was never much into politics, and I'm walking away here from this weekend knowing a lot more about the system and what we can do to make it better. As a random collective representation of all Australians, we propose an open and accessible government. This is something that might on the outside look fairly easy to do, but believe me, I don't think it's going to be that easy to do. We believe strongly that government processes should be made available to all Australians to ensure transparency and compliance with promised agendas. We've all experienced that politicians have made wonderful, wonderful promises. Please elect me and I'll do this. They get in there and we say, well, hang on, what are you going to do? Well, I can't do it now. I didn't know that before, but I do apologise. It has been decided by the Citizens' Parliament that open and accessible government is an ingredient that we Australians hold very dear. Open and accessible government is a serious recommendation from the first Citizens' Parliament in the world. This has not been done anywhere else, and again, we should be very proud to be part of it. And we believe as a collective representation of Australia that this should be adopted at the earliest possible time. Thank you.
My name's Julie, and I have the pleasure to sum up the deliberative process and the experience of the Citizens' Parliament. As you can see, we've all been proud to be here, and it's been an exciting and wonderful process. And I'd like to explain what the process was. We actually listened, and we worked together, and we spoke, and we actually learnt what we call the Citizens' Parliament Cha-Cha-Cha. It was We spoke, we listened, we worked together, deliberated, and we came up with these proposals. But the proposals came through an understanding. And this deliberative process is something very special. It was about engagement. It was about empowerment. And it gave us an incredible energy. So out of this, we're looking to the future, and we can see that we've developed proposals. But we've also learnt 3 other things from this experience, and that is how to be involved in democracy, how to participate in your community. And we've gained energy and confidence to go out into the community and get involved. And this deliberative process, it's very special, and I really commend to everyone around us to take this tool back to our community, bring it to our community groups, bring it to our dialogue with our friends and our families, because it does give you energy, it does give you empowerment, and it engages you, and it brings us to a greater understanding. And I'm very proud, and I would ask the politicians and the people around us to continue this process. It's got a value of its own, not just in the proposals, but the community that we've created. Thank you.
G'day. I'm going to speak from the heart about the process, and you can't sort of walk up and do this. It's pretty difficult. I'm, like all these other people here, just a citizen at the end of the day. And I think my experience over the 4 days is, it's been hot. You know, but it's been fantastic as well. I think we need a vision, and if this is a part of a new direction for Australia, then I think we should embrace it. And I met a lot of really intelligent people as well over the weekend with really good ideas. And it was really good actually to talk to people about their political background without having an argument. And I never saw one. So that was very surprising, and pat yourself on the back, Australia. Like everything, there's a beginning, a middle and an end. You know, I heard about a we and an us. If I'm sitting here, which I am, then I think I'm becoming a part of the us. And I'd like to thank everyone anyway for talking to me and putting up with my silly ideas, but I've really enjoyed your company, and I hope that we can take this new approach back to our communities. Thank you.
Citizens parliamentarians, I think you've been wonderfully represented, and I think you should again thank your representatives for putting those ideas forward.
The recommendations that we put forward as a CP, one that sticks to mind at the moment is the fact that we wanted the education system to embrace the political system a bit more and help our kids in our future understand what we do and where we go. And I suppose it was timely that Julia Gillard announced the curriculum change in the political subjects that we're going through. As a CP, I suppose I'd be happy on behalf of them to claim that we made that happen, because it was timely 12 months after we did our bit. It is good to see that they would have had to have started talking about that before we got together to do our thing. So it was good to see that there was a bit of synergy in thought process there. I've been proactive in my federal area and talking and meeting with my local member, and he's basically put his support behind any projects that we can come up with as a new democracy or citizens parliament that involve the federal electorate in Penrith region, which is a big win for us.
Well, I come in thinking, you know, that we had too many politicians, that we were over-governed. But when you hear the debate from both sides, it's not as simple. It's simply, you know, when you first thought, just get rid of them, we got too many of them. But when you hear it, what happens, it's not just as simple as that. And when it's explained to you properly and all that, which was to us, you know, it makes you think a bit more about it, and it sort of changes your view a bit. You know, I'm still leaning a bit towards that way, but I was, you know, just slanted one way totally, that, you know, we had too many, that was end of story. You couldn't convince me otherwise.
My experience in Canberra is one that I'll never repeat. You too can do what we've done. You too can empower yourselves to be involved in the government process. Don't be trodden on and don't be told you can't, because you can.